Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. We are still on the road to Avengers Doomsday. It feels like a minute since I've done one of these, but for you guys, it's just been a couple of days. We're still in the middle of Phase 4. We are in the second half of Phase 4 of the MCU, also known as the fifth era of Marvel films. And we're on another series, and I will tell you, man, these series, I really like them. I'll talk about it more in the wrap-up. They slow things down. Oh my god, it's taken me like 5 days to get through this series. Because I've had other stuff going on as well. However, I don't want that to undermine how wonderful this series is. It's really, really cool. And it's not quite unlike anything we've seen in the MCU so far. I am, of course, talking about the wonderful Moon Knight. So Moon Knight stars Oscar Isaac as Stephen Grant, who is he's not quite an Egyptologist. He works in the museum. He's a big fan of Egyptian law and kind of history and stuff like that. And he has a problem with sleepwalking. He keeps waking up in places he doesn't know how he got there. So he started kind of tying himself to a bed to prevent it from happening, but he still gets out. And at the end of the first episode, it's realized that he has multiple personalities. Another one called Mark Spector. And Mark Spector is kind of like violent vigilante who dresses up as the Moon Knight, as pictured here. He is thrust into this kind of global cross global adventure, going back to ancient Egypt, or not ancient Egypt, but going back to Egypt to investigate the source of his powers and follow up on this mad cult leader called Arthur Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke in his first ever superhero thing, I think, off the top of my head. And Arthur Harrow wants to basically bring back judgment to the world. The Moon Knight is the avatar of the god of the night, Khonshu, played by F. Murray Abraham, whereas Arthur Harrow is the avatar, or the loyal disciple of a goddess called Amit, who is kind of this world destroyer. She wants to judge people before they commit atrocities, to kind of cleanse the world of any potential evil. Like, we're not even giving people a chance for redemption and stuff like that. And he is kind of trying to resurrect her and free her from her shackles so that he can be her avatar and help cleanse the world. We also have May Kamawi, I'm sure I pronounced her name wrong, I apologize, as Layla, who is Mark Spector's wife, but not Stephen's wife, which is a bit of a shocking turn of events for him. And she has kind of been Mark's kind of like sidekick, partner in crime, as well as wife, as I mentioned. But she's always kind of been left to the side. She's kind of found herself in not quite an abusive relationship with Mark, because he's not physically abusive, but just because he's so distant and distracted and has these multiple personalities. She never knew quite what was going on with him until now. Now that the personalities have been bleeding over, she's starting to realize who he is and what's going on. Visually, this show is stunning. The suit is awesome. Both suits are awesome, but this one in particular is great. The Egyptian backdrop is wonderful. I will say, of all the things I've reviewed so far, it feels the most disconnected from the MCU. There is a reference to something I picked up on when I was watching an episode 4 days ago, which I've forgotten what it was now. But beyond like a slight nod to one of the previous projects, there's basically nothing tying it to the MCU. They could have called this, a multiverse story, and I would have bought it, because there's no mention of Avengers or Eternals or Guardians or Thanos or anything. Like, Hawkeye had references, obviously, to everything. WandaVision had references. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had references. This one is very much standalone. And it feels like it might be a one and done, with recent comments from Oscar Isaac saying that he's done with the character, which is a real shame, because I would have liked to see where the second season went. It definitely leaves us with a cliffhanger. And of course, the Midnight Suns, the kind of like supernatural dark Avengers, Moon Knight's part of them, so that would have been cool to see. So I don't know what the future kind of has in store for Moon Knight, but as a standalone series, it's really cool. The episodes aren't too long. They're about 40 minutes apiece. And it's a really interesting dive into mental health, multiple personalities, as I mentioned, and just the backdrop of Egyptian gods. We've had the Norse gods thus far, and in Thor, Love and Thunder, we'll get some Greek gods and some other gods, but this one goes into Egypt and is quite cool. And just having like that kind of African and Middle Eastern background, kind of going through those kind of regions and kind of playing with those areas of the world, which we haven't seen too much in the MCU other than as villains, in the Iron Man films and stuff like that. So it's nice to see some heroes kind of born of there as well. Oscar Isaac's performance is wonderful. He's really fun. His characters could not be more distinct. Stephen Grant is so lovely and British and polite and charming, and you know, then Mark Spector's this really gruff kind of like badass character. I know people have often compared Moon Knight to Batman. They say Moon Knight is kind of the Marvel version of Batman. I've read some Moon Knight comics. I've watched the show. I don't know if I agree with that. I kind of feel like Daredevil's more, you know, Daredevil's Batman without money. I would probably liken them a bit more closely than Moon Knight and Batman, but that's beside the point. If you haven't checked it out, you're definitely missing out on a great show. It's really, really fun, really a little bit darker than what we've seen before, and it's just a different area of the MCU, which is always fun. One thing that I've liked so much about post Endgame is they've been trying different things. We're going to go into sitcom territory later with She-Hulk. We're going to go into teen drama with Miss Marvel coming up. So it is nice that they were taking these swings, but I do wish they had been movies. It's so much easier in a binge watch to watch a couple, you know, all these 2-hour movies as opposed to these 6-hour series. But on its own, wonderful show. The fight choreography is very cool. All the performances are great, as I mentioned. The CGI is exceptional. There's one moment where they go into the afterlife, and they're confronted by Tayowet, who's this kind of like goddess who kind of shepherds them across the sea of the dead, and she's a live action animated hippopotamus and looks awesome. So in terms of Secret Wars and Doomsday, I don't know if Moon Knight's coming back. I hope he does, but I just don't know whether we're going to see him. But I would like him, and that's the only character I think who would return. Next up is Morbius.